Hello, this short video is for DSCI 325 and we'll talk about the eviction problem and provide some hints on how to proceed through that problem. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. So as I said, this is the Eviction Lab problem. There's going to be data that you can get from the eviction tracking system data. This data is fairly clean. It includes 8 fields. And the first few questions on the problem number 2, for example, problem 15, 16, 17, and 18, just have you work with that eviction data. When we get to problem 19, we have to incorporate, or I'm asking you to incorporate information about population when we're looking at the eviction data. So we're going to want to make some adjustments due to population. That population information has to come from the Census Bureau. So that's what I kind of want to walk you through, is how this can be done, getting data from the Census Bureau. So the second data source here is information from the American Community Survey, which is a very large survey that contains lots and lots and lots of information. Okay, there's over almost 28,000 variables here. What I've done on the document here is just given some of the potential variables that you might want to look at. Problem 19 is fairly straightforward and says make an adjustment for the population. So the variable that we're going to want to pull from the API is B01001_001E, because that is a population estimate. Later I have questions about race, so you're going to decide which race variables you want to pull. I also have questions about housing availability. Again, you're going to decide what variables to pull for housing availability. You get to make those decisions. Okay, here are some of the example pulls of how you're going to get information on census tracts, how you're going to get information on zip codes. So there's some examples there. All right, so let's talk about trying to answer question 19 again. And that one was, I want to understand how to adjust my eviction data for population estimates. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how that information is going to come together here. So here's my eviction data. My eviction data, again, contains information at the census tract level and also the zip code level. So the variable type here will identify what the level is for the information being collected. The GeoID is either the ID for the census tract when it's a census tract, or it's going to be the zip code when it's a zip code. Okay. So that key variable there is the GeoID. That's my primary key in this table. What I'm going to want to do, for example, for question 19 and many of the others, is to summarize my data or to collapse my data down. So what I did here is just got a total number of filings for, total number of filings for this GeoID. So you can see that's 51. There's another one in Albuquerque, 52, 53. So I'm getting the total number of filings here. And down on the zip codes, I'm getting those as well. So I'm going to want to collapse my data down so that I get just one value for each GeoID. Okay, now let's talk about the census data. What I'm going to want to do if I'm doing problem 19 is pull information about the population within each of those census tracts. Now, unfortunately, when I use the API from the Census Bureau and I want it at the census tract level, you have to specify a state. So I'm going to have to get all of the census tract population data for Arizona, and then I'm going to have to do a second pull to get all the census tract population data for Connecticut, all the census tract information for Delaware, and all the way down through Wisconsin. Now, I don't have to get all the states because not all of the states are in my eviction data. You'd only need the states that are available in the eviction data. This is for when I'm trying to join information for my census tracts. I'm going to have to do a separate pull to get the information for my zip codes. Okay, so the second thing that you're going to need to do is go get your zip code data. Now, luckily, I can use a wildcard there that is shown here on the screen, so that, and also on your document that I gave you, of how to get all the zip codes. So you don't have to get the population data for each state separately when you're doing zip codes. Okay, so you're able to use that wildcard to get all the zip code data. Once you have the census tract data and the zip code data, you're going to have to put that data together. Okay, so let's just keep going down here. So here's my census tract data, here's my zip code data. I need to put all of that together into one large data frame. I also am going to need to create a GeoID for every single record because I need that when I go to make my join. So you're going to have to create your own primary key here, which is going to be GeoID for each of these records. So you got to figure out kind of how to make that happen. And once you do that, then you're able to join the census data back against your summarized eviction data. So you're just going to do a simple left join here of the census data with the eviction data. Now, when I did this, I ended up with quite a few, I think it was about 1,400 or so, either census tracts or zip codes where I was not able to get census data on. So you might end up with some missingness after you do your join. That's okay. I mean, that's just life. You do not need to go track down all of those missing observations. Okay, so I believe my eviction data, when it was summarized, was roughly 8,800 rows or so. And after I did one of my joins, I ended up with only 7,400 rows. So I missed about 1,400 rows. And again, I just didn't have that information. For some reason, when I pulled it from the Census Bureau API, I wasn't able to get that for certain census tracts or for certain zip codes. Once you have that information joined, okay, then you're able to complete problem 19. You're going to want to adjust for the population within each of the geographic units, whether that's a census tract or a zip code. When you get down to problems 20, 21, 22, okay, these are 20 is about race, 21 is about availability of rental units, and 22 is about poverty line. Again, you're going to kind of want to decide what various variables to pull from the Census Bureau, and then again, repeat that entire process that I described. Okay, getting it for each census tract, gluing all that together, then getting it for the zip codes, creating a GeoID, and then doing the join. You're going to have to do that for problem 20, 21, and 22. When we get to problem 23, okay, so this is asking about how things changed over time. So there we're going to want to bring our month information into our discussions on 23. You do not need to go get any additional information from the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau just gives us a snapshot at one particular time. So I'm not, on problem 23, you don't have to use your Census Bureau information there. You can just use the eviction data, but again, you're looking at what the effect is over time, kind of at a macro scale and then also a specific location. Okay, I hope that helps then describe a little bit about what has to happen for your DSCI 325, the eviction problem. Good luck and stop on by if you have questions.